I keep the door shut in my flat. This is primarily practical. Heat retention, which has become a more pressing need in recent months due to recent geopolitical issues, but also probably has more than a little to do with me and my brother being asked many times by my father if I've been raised in a barn every time I left one open growing up. It reminds me of him in easier times by following the little rule. Fairly normal thing. Want to get it out of the way before we get into why this is causing a specific problem. Enter boyfriend. Similar barn chat scenario. Though he grew up in the country, so frankly, I'm not entirely convinced he didn't. His behavior over the last few weeks also really convinced me that, while I love him, if these kind of habits are what living out with the city does to someone, then we are never moving so much as a foot out of here. Anyway, I guess that perception has been complicated somewhat, so it's really weird. And initially, I was geared up to delve into the relationship advice because it felt red flag adjacent at best, and I didn't know how the heck to address it. Basically, we moved in together a few months ago. I basically packed up my own flat and rented it out, all above board, HMRC fully aware, and moved in. We haven't been together that long. It'll be a year in June. First Reddit relationship advice sin. But we're both fully fledged adults, looking for the same things. We have good jobs and minimal debt, and normal friends. Between us, we have 2 weird exes, so we're both pretty attuned to spotting warning signs. I love him. We're hitting 30 soon. We moved in together at the start of October. Naturally, as I've just moved in with my partner, things are bliss. It's a routine of breakfast, banging, and foot massages. He tells me every day that he loves me, endearingly, that I'm the most wonderful weird person he has met. Yeah, more on that later. Apart from the weird pranks, psychopathic idiosyncrasies I had noticed as of late, it was fine. So, first time I noticed this was the start of January. Conceivably this had been happening since October, but it's such a busy time around the festive period, I may have been too preoccupied to see. It was the first. I was hungover personified, sick with the flu, and so I was basically intending to light poach myself in a bath until this all blew over. The bath faces away from the door because I've resolved to try and read a book instead of absently scrolling. And for whatever reason, I just know he's behind the door. When you're close to someone, you get a real sense of them and the way they move, or don't. I couldn't see him, couldn't see a shadow, but I knew it was him. I called out to him, asking if he needed in. Though, of course, unprepared to give up my bath unless his bowels were in dire shape. No response. Thought, that's really odd. After a bit, I'm so uncomfortable that I have to get out of the bath. In the time I was getting dressed, that sense of him standing there faded away. I get out, and he is in the kitchen making tea. Whatever the vibes are for, I've been lurking outside a bathroom are. He was not giving them. Over the last few weeks, he's doing it more and more. Every time we're together in the flat and in different rooms, I can feel him outside the door of the room I'm in. More recently, I thought, because I was getting used to identifying it, because I could hear him breathe and the floorboards creak as he stepped towards it. But sometimes, it's still just completely silent, and it seems to almost escalate in how the atmosphere changes when it happens. An aurora of tension surrounds the perimeter, ebbing and radiating into the air of any room I'm in. It's like whenever he's behind the door, then he's like a coiled spring, something ready to strike, but to do what to me, and to what end? The former were more infuriating, because obviously I can hear him, and so he knows that I know he's there. But the latter started to get pretty unsettling pretty fast. They made my skin crawl. I could never bring myself to open the door. It felt like opening a can of worms I wasn't prepared to deal with. It reminded me of when Azid missed my brother used to tease me by standing outside my bedroom door late at night. But that was just trying to get a rise out of me in the usual back and forth, who can cause the more psychological damage. games that siblings inevitably grow into. I talk about my brother a lot to him, keeping the memory alive, but I never mentioned about that. I talk about the funny things, the good things. I don't talk about the weird stuff. It seems to intertwine with the period where he started to decline. One of the last times I heard him speak was when he was remorseful for the pranks, maybe a week prior to him going missing, apologizing and saying that he needed to stop. So, whatever it is. And I had thought about whatever it could be. It wasn't like a twisted, from the behind prank. This was the same but different. It was a different context. It wasn't dumb kids trying to freak each other out. And it was like at this point I realized I'm living with a man I've known less than a year who is standing threateningly behind doors, and I don't know what he'll do to me if I open them. But then I'd spend time with him and he was just the normal dude I'd met. And those times outnumbered the doors. And it had only been a few weeks. So, on the one hand, I was with this great guy, and on the other hand, I was with some sort of maniacal reincarnation of a children's game I'd rather forget about. It came to a head yesterday. I was in the shower, and even with the shampoo in my eyes, I just felt it. I felt him standing there, through the door, breathing softly against the wood. I was just sick of it. I'm fairly certain I can take him in a fight, because he's just an accountant doing couch to 5K. So I got out, and in the most intimidating way a naked woman with no more tears, strawberry shampoo only can be, I opened the door. What met me was the same look on my boyfriend's face that he got that time he won an argument about the best place to keep all the socks. He just looked really benignly pleased with himself, and he said, within the same heartbeat, "See, it's weird, isn't it?" So at this point, the big scary unknown is just standing there in his pajamas, holding a beer and his phone open to a news article about the downfall of Sunderland Football Club. Obviously, the standing was getting boring at some stage, looking like he's just won the world's dumbest argument. And as I'm realizing this, he's in tandem seeing a very scared, very angry version of his girlfriend about to jump over the threshold and strangle him. There is, at that point, a pause that feels like it could stretch into eternity. I ask him eventually to kindly explain what the heck he's talking about. He looked more cautious then, and then he gathered himself and said he could ask me the same thing and that it's been driving him up the wall. Cue me crying and hitting him with a damp hairbrush around the hall, him flinching, trying not to get his t-shirt wet, amusement turning to genuine concern as I upend the beer can over his head. I called him every name under the sun. I threatened to have him sectioned. I threatened to phone my mom. I threatened to phone his mom. And then he starts trying to get me to calm down, face somewhere between confusion and looking like he's made some sort of massive error. "So, you haven't been doing this to me?" "Of course I've not been doing this to you, John. There's only one lunatic lurking behind closed doors, and it's the one covered in Asahi Superdry." He becomes upset, remorseful. So, apparently, at the start of January, every time he's been playing computer games, he thinks I've been standing outside the door, spying on him. He's got the same sense that I'm angry at him, waiting for him, about to have a go with him. Naturally, not wanting to rise to it, he waits until I go away, and when he finds me, he just sees me doing something else, and there's no anger incoming. It's like I've not even done it. Obviously, he now realizes he can't exactly say why he thought I was there. He just had a sense it was me, but he never heard me speak or do anything, never heard anything at all. He now feels rather foolish and rather wet, because obviously I haven't been. So he chooses to go on another snack run, leaving me in a blanket in the living room to try and prevent his scared, nervous girlfriend from stabbing him with the kitchen utensils. And this would be fine. I'd have left it at this being my slightly paranoid partner, trying to get even, just having a truly dumbass moment. Except, he said he only started doing this last week, around the 14th. I had the flu on the 1st, And thinking now, I was only able to hear him doing it in the last week or so, but I don't know how to tell him this. I don't know how to tell anyone. And I think of my brother towards the end of it all, when he was sat crouched outside my bedroom door, whispering that he was sorry, except I'm wondering if he did mean it like that. His exact words were just that he didn't want this to happen anymore. It needed to stop. And my boyfriend is still out trying to buy every snack under the sun. I heard his car drive off, and someone is behind the living room door. Thank you for listening to Someone is Behind My Living Room Door by Ambition Party 5444. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. And I hope all of you have a fantastic night.